Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Chiwete Onyema. Here are some stories making rounds beyond the continent. We begin the news in North America, where the Trump administration has withdrawn the former U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris' Secret Service security protection. The administration terminated an extension approved by then-President Joe Biden for Harris, the Democratic presidential candidate, whose customary 6-month period protection as ex-VP ended on July 21. Harris, who has been on a low profile since the election, is scheduled to go on tour to promote a book she has written on her failed presidential bid. Since taking office in January, Trump has taken a number of measures against his perceived enemies and political opponents, stripping them of their security clearances, targeting law firms involved in past cases against him, and pulled federal funding from universities. The United States has ended tariff exemptions on small parcels entering the country. The Trump administration says the change closes loopholes and stops smuggling, but businesses warn it could mean higher cost and delay for consumers. For News Central, senior international correspondent Afua Hagen has more.
From today, packages worth $800 or less will no longer enter the US duty-free. Instead, shipments will face tariffs from their country of origin or a flat fee of up to $200 per item. Some gifts and personal items remain excluded. The White House argues the move will generate revenue and curb narcotics smuggling through international mail, but it's already causing major disruption. Postal services across Europe, Asia and Australia have suspended US-bound deliveries, with the United Nations Postal Agency saying 25 countries have stopped outbound shipments altogether. For small businesses, the impact is immediate. Many rely on US customers, but now face higher costs and tighter margins. Retailers in the UK and Canada say they've paused exports while they work out how to manage the new system. Analysts warn consumers are likely to feel the effects too. All packages must now clear customs, creating the potential for delays and additional charges at the border. Prices are expected to rise as businesses pass on the costs. Larger global platforms such as Shein and Temu may be able to absorb some of the tariff shock, but smaller exporters, from boutique clothing brands to independent artisans, fear they could be shut out of the US market entirely. With the holiday shopping season approaching, retailers worry the timing could hit both sales and jobs, and experts say it could take months for postal systems to adapt, leaving confusion for sellers abroad and higher prices for buyers at home. For now, the Trump administration is holding firm on its tariff strategy, but trust between small businesses and Washington is already eroding, and many fear this latest measure could be one of the most damaging yet. For News Central, I'm Afua Hagen.
In South America, a group of 33 Colombian soldiers were freed on Friday after being held captive for 3 days in the southeastern Amazonian community, home to drug crops and dissident guerrillas. After the soldiers engaged in fierce clashes with the guerrillas on Monday, local villagers blocked roads to prevent the departure of troops, an act that the leftist government of Gustavo Petro deemed a kidnapping. The release followed a mediation by government, UN, and ombudsman delegations. Fighting had left 10 dead, prompting the army to deploy reinforcements. Authorities say armed groups often manipulate locals in remote regions where state's presence is weak. A recent truck bombing by rebels in Cali killed 6 people.
Hacia la vereda de Nueva York, zona rural del municipio del Retorno, en el departamento del Guaviare, esta noche fueron liberados nuestros valientes soldados e infantes de marina que fueron secuestrados, aislados y presionados bajo extremas condiciones, pero jamás fueron vencidos.
In Europe, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has raised the alarm over a massive Russian troop concentration near the eastern city of Pokrovsk. According to Ukrainian intelligence, nearly 100,000 Russian troops are now positioned in the area, signaling possible preparations for a large-scale offensive. Pokrovsk serves as a strategic gateway to the Donetsk region, where fighting has continued despite international efforts to halt the conflict. Officials warn that these troop movements could lead to renewed assaults aimed at expanding Russian control.
Ситуація, що стосується фронту, ситуація у нас більш-менш нормальна. Контрольована ситуація. Ну, Покровський напрямок найсерйозніший сьогодні накопичення, концентрація ворога там є. До 100 тисяч те, що є на ранок. Ну, вони готують у будь-якому випадку наступальні.
Meanwhile, Russia has strongly criticized French President Emmanuel Macron on Friday for calling Russian leader Vladimir Putin a predator and an ogre. Macron, in an interview with LCI broadcaster, warned European leaders not to trust Putin, saying the Russian leader needs to keep eating for his survival. These remarks followed a significant meeting in Washington with U.S. President Donald Trump, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and European allies. Russia's foreign ministry condemned Macron's comments as vulgar insults, crossing the lines of reasonableness and decency, with spokeswoman Maria Zakharova denouncing them at a televised briefing. Meanwhile, Macron said France will keep pushing for additional sanctions against Russia, both independently and in coordination with allies, including the United States. Speaking in Toulon alongside German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Macron emphasized the need to maintain pressure on Moscow as the war in Ukraine continues.
Les prochains jours seront déterminants, qui marqueront la fin de la période que nous nous étions donnée avec le président Trump et le président Zelensky pour obtenir les premières rencontres, et nous continuerons d'exercer la pression pour que des sanctions supplémentaires soient prises par nous-mêmes, et nous y sommes prêts, mais aussi par les États-Unis d'Amérique pour forcer la Russie à revenir autour de la table des discussions, en même temps que nous devons continuer.
Still talking about France, France's Prime Minister Francis Bayrou, during his visits to Châlons-en-Champagne in eastern France, warns that a collapse of government would trigger widespread disorder across the country. The statement comes amid growing political tensions and uncertainty following recent parliamentary gridlock. With no clear majority in National Assembly, concerns are mounting over the government's ability to maintain stability. Security officials are reportedly on alert as public frustration rises over stalled reforms and economic pressures. Analysts say any political breakdown could lead to protest and disrupt essential services. The warning highlights the fragile state of French politics as leaders struggle to find a path forward in a deeply divided landscape.
La crainte justifiée de voir l'alliance des ennemis les plus absolus, ceux qui se détestent, se haïssent, disent pique-prendre les uns des autres, et de les retrouver ceux-là s'alliant pour obtenir quoi? La chute du gouvernement. Et après la chute du gouvernement, les Français se rendent très bien compte de ce qui se produit, c'est-à-dire le désordre et le chaos qu'on a déjà connu et que certains veulent. Et on peut décider, ils ont le pouvoir de décider qu'ils ont droit de vie et de mort sur le gouvernement. Je suis un démocrate, j'ai toujours défendu la démocratie et je reconnais ce droit. Et c'est précisément pour lequel je vais au-devant des...
You're watching Beyond the Continent on News Central. Coming up after the break, Thai court socks a prime minister over Cambodia phone call row. Details after the break. Join us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says the coming weeks could prove decisive in efforts to revive stalled diplomacy on Iran's nuclear program. Her remarks follow a move by European powers to trigger a 30-day deadline, which could lead to sanctions against Tehran if no progress is made. The decision underscores growing concerns about Iran's nuclear activities and the deadlock in negotiations aimed at restoring compliance with international agreements. Callis says the period ahead presents a critical window to re-engage in dialogue and prevent further escalation.
The opportunity when it comes to Iran, then you know all that yesterday the snapback was started, so we are entering a new phase, this 30 days that is now giving us also the opportunity to really find diplomatic ways to find a solution.
Now, France, Britain and Germany have triggered a mechanism to reimpose nuclear-related sanctions on Iran for failing to meet its JCPOA commitments. Now, this starts a 30-day countdown to reimpose previously lifted UN sanctions unless Iran agrees to renewed diplomacy, but the offer remains open. While Iran condemned the move as illegal and unjustified, the U.S. welcomed the decision and said it remains open to direct talks with Tehran.
And deliberately ceased performing almost all of its JCPOA commitments. This includes the accumulation of high-enriched uranium stockpile, which lacks any credible civilian justification. In fact, most recently, we offered Iran an extension to snapback should Iran take specific steps to address our most immediate concerns. Our asks were fair and realistic. Iran's resumption of negotiations on a comprehensive agreement, Iran's compliance with its IAEA obligations, and steps to address our concerns regarding the high-enriched uranium stockpile. However, as of today, Iran has shown no indication that it is serious about meeting them.
Palestinians are sifting through debris and grieving relatives after an Israeli airstrike hit the Tel Ahawa neighborhood south of Gaza City, leaving 5 people dead, according to local rescue officials. The strike adds to the mounting civilian toll in a conflict that has devastated Gaza for nearly 2 years. Israeli forces have declared Gaza City a dangerous combat zone as they prepare for a major offensive to seize control of the territory's largest urban center. The escalation comes amid ongoing bombardments and ground operations that have already displaced thousands of residents. Humanitarian agencies warn of worsening conditions with critical shortages of food, shelter, and medical supplies as fighting intensifies across the enclave. You're watching Beyond the Continent right here on News Central. We're going on a quick break. When we return, we have more. And thanks for staying with us. Now, Turkey has closed its ports to Israeli ships, banned Turkish ships from docking in Israel, and sealed its airspace to Israeli aircraft, targeting official and military flights. Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan made the announcement at a special session of the parliament on Friday. These sweeping steps include stopping container ships carrying weapons and ammunition and acknowledging that trade with Israel has been fully cut off. The bans reflect Ankara's fierce opposition to Israel's action in Gaza, which it has labeled a genocide.
İsrail'le ticaretimizi tamamen kestik. İsrail gemilerine limanlarımızı kapattık. Türk gemilerinin İsrail limanlarına gitmesine izin vermiyoruz. İsrail'le ticaretini tamamen kesen başka ülke, altını çiziyorum, bulunmamaktadır. Silah ile mühimmat taşıyan konteyner gemilerinin ülkemiz limanlarına girmesine, uçakların ise hava sahamıza girmesine izin vermiyoruz.
Now, Thailand faces political upheaval at the Constitutional Court removed Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra and her cabinet over her handling of a border dispute with Cambodia. The court found that Paetongtarn's actions compromised the national interest and eroded public trust following a leaked phone call with former Cambodian leader Hun Sen. She had been suspended in July pending investigation. The 9-judge panel ruled she failed to meet the ethical standards required of a prime minister, with 6 judges supporting her dismissal. Her removal leaves the ruling coalition without clear leadership, heightening uncertainty in the government. Analysts warn the decision could intensify political instability as parties scramble to fill the vacuum. Tear gas was deployed against demonstrators in Jakarta as protests escalated following the death of a motorcycle taxi driver during confrontations with police. The incident intensified tensions in the capital, where public anger has been mounting over economic issues. The demonstrations, initially sparked by low wages, have been fueled by perceptions of excessive benefits for lawmakers, highlighting a growing disconnect between citizens and government officials. The clashes between protesters and law enforcement have turned increasingly violent, with authorities struggling to maintain order while managing the grievances of workers and residents. The unrest underscores widespread dissatisfaction with the government's handling of economic challenges, including cost of living pressures, and signals a potential continuation of protests as citizens demand accountability and better living conditions.
Masyarakat benar-benar terbuka, transparan, bukan hanya manis di bibir aja lah.
Now, union protesters have taken to the streets of Washington, marching against the Trump administration and its federal policies. The demonstration, led by Metro Washington Council of the AFL-CIO, rallied under the banner Free DC and drew large crowds around DuPont Circle. Protesters denounced the deployment of the National Guard and immigration agents in the capital, while also condemning recent public sector layoffs, which they say threaten livelihoods and weaken communities. Union leaders framed the rally as a demand for autonomy, fairness, and protection of workers' rights, highlighting what they described as growing discontent under the administration's approach to labor and security. We'll take a pause now on Beyond the Continent as we're joining Ekene Ezeji live in the UK, as she is live at the premiere of the movie Amayanabo, the Eagle King.
It's good to be with you.
Amayanabo, can you hear me clearly?
I can.
All right, so talk to us. What makes this? Of course, we know we had a lot of movies coming out of Nollywood, but what makes this particular movie special?
Well, it's a movie that already has been getting good reviews, strong reviews. It's been likened to Ben-Hur, one of our classics, epic classics, and in fact, it's been actually given the credit of being the best-dressed historical epic, which is significant. And just having spoken to some of the cast, they're very excited about the fact that Ibinabo Verissima, she didn't hold back on delivering authenticity where this project was concerned. So it's a project that's very dear to her heart. It's a personal story that's rooted in her origin, and she's very excited about being able to tell it to the world.
All right, so talk to us about the cast, because you mentioned about, you just said it right now, you had a conversation with the cast. Can you tell us some of the cast? I'm sure this is something a lot of people want to know when it comes to movies, basically. So tell us, who are part of the cast members in this movie?
Well, so far we've managed to speak to Mona Lisa Chinda, whose role is one of the key roles, and also Kem Owo, who is also a well-known Nollywood veteran. And they both spoke extensively about how excited they were and how this was a landmark in terms of, despite the previous experience, this was a landmark experience for them because of how authentic it was, because of how faithfully the story was told. And they're excited about others getting to share this with the world.
All right, so let us know as what date will this movie be available to see in the cinema, especially in Nigeria and even worldwide?
Yes, I'm told. Well, right here in the UK, today it's having its premiere across the UK, in Manchester, in Birmingham, and here at the Odeon in Greenwich. I guess you can't see much. We're on the red carpet. But in Nigeria, I'm told you have to wait till September 12th to get your own viewing of this particular broadcast, this particular film. But we get to see it today across the UK, as well as to meet the cast on the red carpet. So we're privileged in that sense.
All right, thank you so much, Kene Ezeji, for giving us details as regards this awesome Nollywood movie.
Good to join you.
All right. And with that, that's all on Beyond the Continent. But of course, feel free to send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on your screen. Also, watch the News Central, of course. Remember, News Central, you can watch us live on YouTube, of course, on AVO TV. And also, you can watch us on GoTV Channel 23, on DSTV Channel 422, on Star Times, it's Channel 274. Many thanks for watching. I am Chiwete Onyema.